Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Chip Podcast by fans for fans. This is your host Cody Potter. How y'all doing today? So we had the jersey unveil yesterday on April 15th. We are now officially 7 days from the draft. 7 days, one whole week. This segment kind of gets drawn out. We talk about a lot of names. I can do mock drafts. A lot of it. It's all projection. Using them simulator. It's picking players based on who's going to be there, based on the simulator, based on, trends, how people are drafting. There's a lot of things that go into that algorithm and things like that. So, a lot of it is fantasy for me. That's why I don't typically do them with trades. My last one I did do with trades, I got to talk about some players in the second round, which kind of led me to this episode. I do want to just kind of show the easy into, I usually don't get into a lot of things like this. There's so many things that come into play when it comes to things like this. But for me, scouting at this time of the year, man, my favorite thing to do, I kind of started implementing this last year, man. It really, really helps me get into my board. Looking forward to the next year. And I start with quarterbacks, of course. So basically, like I said, I say this a lot, man. I do a lot of scouting. My notes are what they are. I don't like to change my grades off of the combine, man. So really around the time of the year, and it doesn't mean I'm not still scouting this class. I do. I still scout, each, player that I see. It's hard for guys that are in this class not to show up when you're talking about, looking over the next year's class, looking forward. Looking forward is always a projection. You have guys that transfer. The transfer portal has changed a lot of things, but it's also opened up a lot of opportunities for a lot of players. There's players that I do a ton of work on, for the next class, basically once the Senior Bowl ends. So basically from the time that my board is pretty much locked up, I do factor in measurables, height, weight, and speed and things like that come out of the combine, but most of the things that I'm doing from, basically from the moment the Senior Bowl is over to the time that, the draft actually comes, I'm actually working forward to the next year's class. It's really allowed me to have a little bit of off season. I still scout, from the time that the draft is done, leading up to the college football season. Watch, spring practice, summer practices, things like that. You get to see these pro days and stuff like that, and that also involves players that are going to be in next year's class. So watching Darian Monsa, the quarterback from Duke, it really, really redefined a player that, I have a higher grade on than I'm seeing around a lot of consensuses, and that's Chandler Rivers. I'm going to get into, quite a few. I'm going to get into a few players today, man, like that, that I'm really, really seeing that I think are going to go a lot earlier than the pub that they're getting. And again, when I say I have these players higher on my list, a lot of that is I was already higher on them than what I'm seeing going back, and watching, film of players that are coming out the next year. It just really, really re-solidifies what I had already seen. I'm not going to really knock anybody down if I'm seeing something else on tape, but I will factor it in. Watching the games, I've already watched these players probably at least 12, 13 times just based off of this past season. Plus, I re-scouted them the year before in the offseason and things like that just to kind of have a great, even players that are not draft eligible, I'm scouting freshmen they are getting playing time and things like that. So Chandler Rivers, man, he's a guy that I do like. I comp this guy a lot to Devin Witherspoon, and I had really, really high grades on Devin Witherspoon. Devin Witherspoon had a lot of pub, but again, there's a completely different level here. We're talking about one player from Duke on that back end of that defense who's getting, second, first. Like when I see the tape, I see like fringe first round tape. I see all the tackling, I see all the physical markers, that I need to see from a player that is 5'10", 185 pounds. His tackling is way above a 5'10", 185 pound corner. A lot of corners. You can see big corners that can't tackle, and I mean this guy is a guy that gets his head in there, knows what he's doing, has the right type of attitude. I mean, he's everything you want: the feet, the body control, the weight, the shoulders over the feet, squared up, turn and run. Every piece of ability is there for this guy to be a truly dynamic cornerback in the league. I think this guy can play outside, even though he's 5'10". Everybody wants the cornerback that's drawn up in the lab. You're going to see guys that are 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", that do not have this skill set, don't have his coverage ability, don't have his coverage grades, and because they look like they were made in a lab, they're going to go before this guy, and this guy's going to end up being a better football player than some of them guys. I do like the Colton Hoods of this draft. Like I said, I've talked about Jermichael McCoy. He has really great tape, and again, but Chandler Rivers, like I said, just going back and rewatching a lot of Duke games because, one, I'm a Miami U fan, and I really do have. I had a high grade coming out for this season off of Monsah, the quarterback from Duke that transferred to Miami. Again, so a lot of the players that I are going to re-up on in this episode, basically what the biggest thing that I'm talking about with them is I've been scouting their quarterback for the 2027 class already. This is how I do it. This is how I get into it. The quarterbacks are they're the most, man. Like, there's always, everybody is looking for quarterback. As a Commanders fan, we have Jaden Daniels, but realistically, man, like, let's be real. I mean, we've seen it time and time again in the NFL, man. One year to the next is a completely different life form than what we saw from the year before. As I've talked about Jaden Daniels. I've talked about needing, to clean up the injuries and things like that. I've talked about a ton of things with Jaden Daniels, man, but realistically, I mean, and this goes for Lamar Jackson, this goes for Jaden Daniels, this goes for Drake May. I mean, for everything that we project. I mean, Patrick Mahomes got hurt last year. I mean, everybody is one injury away from it all being taken away. We've seen it happen with Ryan Shazier. We've seen guys retire early. We've seen a lot of things, man. So you have to scout every quarterback class. It doesn't matter if you have your quarterback. You should always be looking for the guy behind him. You should be looking to draft a quarterback behind your quarterback to develop and get future draft picks for. And for that player to be a quality backup should your quarterback go down. If you do have a franchise quarterback, man, the Eagles do it. You see teams do it. You saw the Green Bay Packers all them years with Aaron Rodgers drafting quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers was ultimately their backup quarterback. They ended up trading Brett Favre. Having that level of quarterback behind your quarterback, it brings out competition. It brings out the best in them quarterbacks. The best years that Aaron Rodgers had, I remember, was Jordan Love year. The quarterback that they drafted before him. And competitors compete, man. Like, when you bring competition into that room, it brings out the best in your player. I love Marcus Mariota being our backup. I would, if Jalen Daniels was our last pick, I would not be upset with it. Jalen Daniels has a similar skill set to Jaden Daniels, the Kansas quarterback. I like his film, coming out of college. I think he is a backup in this league, but I think he is a guy that could come in and win games as a backup, and that is what you want from a backup. And realistically, I mean, we've seen it with Malik Willis. I mean, now getting a contract to start in Miami. I mean, had the Green Bay Packers played that right, they probably could have traded this guy for some assets, and things like that maybe the year before. Maybe they wouldn't have got the assets that they wanted over not having him as a backup last year, which ultimately Malik Willis came in and played some valuable snaps for the Green Bay Packers. But again, you should always be doing your quarterbacks, man. So I'm always doing my quarterback homework first. Like I said, the Senior Bowl is over. February comes along, the combine is going, man. Most people, I have every game in college football recorded. I go back and I watch them. I skip the commercials. I've found ways to be a lot more efficient with it, man. Big time critical moments are very, very important for me. That's why I was not very high on Jackson Dart coming out. I saw him multiple times in the biggest moments of the biggest games, fourth quarter, multiple opportunities in some games, man. I mean, like some of it was very bad. I mean, you could see it in his body language, man. You could see that guy go out on the field, and that was with good receivers like Trey Harris and things like that, and another guy I'm about to get into, because currently I am working on Trinidad Chambliss, who is a guy that I've talked about for this draft class, a guy that I thought would be the second quarterback selected. I don't care about the height. Would that have been an issue with the Arizona Cardinals or something? Maybe coming off of a shorter quarterback that had some developmental issues, along his time in the NFL for whatever the reason. I mean, we can all joke and we can talk about the Call of Duty and things like that. Every time Call of Duty comes out, well, his performance goes down. I think I know nothing about Kyler Murray's personal life. I do not play video games and things like that. I do not have time for it. So, all these things to me are just laughable. I don't know. All I know is Kyler Murray coming out of Oklahoma. I knew that guy could drop the ball in the bucket, and he can drop the ball in the bucket. I mean, there's running skills and there's things like that. There was size deficiencies. But when I looked at Trinidad Chambliss, I thought this guy could be the second quarterback taken. And I mean, for the Jets, I thought that was very much a possibility. They haven't really gone that route. The athletic, elite level runner kind of guy that can buy time, move the pocket, give you that diverse offensive skill set, and kind of teach him how to be a pocket quarterback over the course of his career. Trinidad Chambliss is one of those guys, kind of like Jaden Daniels. Fifth, sixth year, kind of in college. He's going to be older when he makes it to the NFL. But that's going to kind of lead me to this next player. Dejan Stribling, man. This is a guy that I, not just from listening to podcasts and things like that, because I do listen to podcasts, and that does kind of help me keep up into, maybe I need to check out this quarterback real quick so I can do a little bit more work on this player. Stribling is a guy, man. When I watched Ole Miss last year, man, the difference that really took off. What really, really took off for Ole Miss was when Trinidad Chambliss found his one, and number one was his one. Stribling is a guy that I think is going to get drafted. I don't know if he has the pub at all, man. I think his name has come up recently. I listen to Daniel Jeremiah. I listen to all the PFF guys, man. I trust them guys. We all have a different vision and things like that, man. I listen to Kyle Krabs. They used to be the draft dudes, things like that. Trust me, man. And those guys were very, very high on Puka Nacua. My best friend was very, very high on Puka Nacua, and he used to do a lot of draft scouting and things like that with me. And a lot of these scouting things that you find, a lot of these guys that you find, like these Striblings, are from guys that are going back, and they're kind of basically pre-scouting the next year's class. Whether they tell you that's what they're doing or not, that's basically what they're doing. Draft season gets very, very repetitious, man. It gets very, very, it's always the same thing. You're always hearing the same names. It's all projection. Until you get to the draft, until your team is on the clock, every team wants to trade down. Every team wants to get, a first-round pick next year. Plus, everybody wants to get the RG3 trade haul. Everybody wants to get the Micah Parsons haul. Everybody wants to move back, get 1,000 picks, if their player isn't there. But realistically, it's if your player isn't there, more than likely the team that is going to trade up and give you picks, their player isn't there either, because it's the same player. It's not always in that case. We see draft day trades because it's not always that case. Every team is looking for different things in their window, in their lifeblood of their organization and things like that. But again, going back and doing work on Trinidad Chambliss, who again, man, turnover-worthy plays are something that I very much highlighted when I said I think this guy could have really, came out and made himself a lot of money in the NFL. I think he had an opportunity to come in and give himself, a first round selection. And realistically, man, if you have an opportunity to be a first-round pick coming out of college, man, it's pretty much a no-brainer, because first-round picks get a lot more leeway in the NFL than second, third, fourth, and then you start to get to fifth-round picks, man. We've seen Sam Howell on the field one time, and I'm only bringing him up because of other Commanders. When you are a first-round pick, I mean, Kirk Cousins got multiple opportunities as a fourth-round pick, but he had a coaching staff that believed in him, multiple coaching staffs that believed in him. It was the Shanahans, then it was Jay Gruden. Most mid-round picks don't get that type of thing. So Trinidad Chambliss, I mean, dude, I think he's going to go to Ole Miss. I think he's going to be fine. One, he's coming out in a class that I very, very much like a lot more than this class. I mean, Ty Simpson has some things, and I see the thing with him, and then I've seen moments with Drew Aller. I have never seen complete games. I have never really seen the things that I needed to see from Drew Aller that, I basically highlighted going into this season from about this time last year, where I was like, man, I just don't know, man. But Stribling is a guy that when I watched Trinidad Chambliss, the things that made me fall in love with Trinidad Chambliss, his skill set, the big time moments, the critical moment play, the way that he played against Miami when they were down. They still lost that game, but he was dishing the rock, and he was making really good decisions. First half, I mean, he threw 4 balls to the Miami Hurricanes, the turnover-worthy plays. I scout Trinidad Chambliss a lot, and I mirror him a lot to Russell Wilson, man. Like, I remember Russell Wilson at NC State, man. This was a guy that I was very, very high on coming out of NC State and Wisconsin. I mean, Russell Wilson could play 3 quarters of football, and it could look meh. And, I mean, he did that in the pros, too. We all remember Russell Wilson at his peak. Or before his peak, I should say, as a truly refined quarterback, where he was leading the Golden Tates and those guys. I mean, like we know the receivers that he ended up making really, really good wide receivers, and they were good wide receivers in their own right. But the receivers that they had early in his era, the Golden Tates, I'm blanking on his name, man. The dude was there forever, and I had his name in that. I said Golden Tate because I forgot Golden Tate multiple times, bringing him up. Russell Wilson back in the day, but Trinidad Chambliss reminds me of that. Can play 3 quarters of football, where he's maybe had a turnover-worthy play, but then his legs bail him out, and he keeps you in the game, and he moves the sticks on a 3rd down, and then the offense scores, but they don't really have a rhythm. And then all of a sudden in the 4th quarter, the game is tight, and then all of a sudden it clicks for this dude, man. And like same thing with Mendoza. Mendoza almost has like that puncher, like that boxer's mentality, like that Ricky Hatton, like he gets punched in the mouth, and then all of a sudden it clicks for him. Like he wasn't in rhythm, and then you smack the shit out of him, and then next thing you know, like all of a sudden it's clicking for him. The feet and the eyes are all working in sync, and he's throwing in rhythm, and all the mechanics start to come together and things like that. Like, and that happens with a lot of young players. Like every player has a different mental makeup. Every player has a different thing that makes them click. Every player has a different skill set that really, really defines their ability. Trinidad Chambliss, it's the defining moment plays, the big critical moment plays, and it really, really came alive for him on the back half of the season. And this player that I'm highlighting behind me, man, like it just Stribling really, really came on as the number 1 wide receiver for Ole Miss, made the big moment catches, and it's really, really hard to tell the difference, because everybody remembers Johnny Manziel with with Mike Evans back at Texas A&M. And honestly, like when I think about them guys, man, it's like when you have the receiver and the quarterback, man, it's so hard to like figure out, in the dynamic of everything that you're scouting is who is the guy. And right now, from the consensus that I get around the league, I would have to say Stribling would be the guy, because I have Trinidad Chambliss a lot higher, I think, going into this season. And I had Trinidad Chambliss on my draft board for this season because I thought he was coming out. We all know the legal things and all the crazy things that football allows for guys to continue to come back and get these extra years and things like that. And like personally, I think he left a lot of money on the table. I know he got a lot of money from Ole Miss. It's guaranteed. It's upfront money, but it's like I really thought he had an opportunity to come into the NFL and have that window as a first-round pick, to where you get a lot more leeway and a lot more opportunity to succeed long term and develop your skill set. And that's something that I think maybe could cost Trinidad Chambliss moving forward. But again, I brought him up because in rewatching Trinidad Chambliss, like I said, when I brought up Chandler Rivers, I was doing a lot of work on Monsah, the quarterback that's now going to be in Miami University. 1, because I'm a Miami fan. 2, I want to know what I'm getting. And 3, I want to see if my notes are still in sync for what I'm seeing projecting this guy forward, because I have Monsah as probably my number 2 quarterback coming out next year. And I say that number 2 because honestly, like for me, he'd be number 1. I know Arch Manning, the clout. I know Arch Manning has a skill set, and I know this guy can be a number 1 pick. And I know if it's anything close, that Manning name and the development and things like that is going to trump probably just about any prospect. And is that fair? No. I mean, but is it real? Yes. And honestly, is Manning worth it to me? Yes, he is. He is very worthy of being a top overall pick in the NFL draft. So again, I have no reservations for what Arch Manning is going to be in the NFL. I think if I'm going based off tape and I'm being truly honest with you, Monsell would be my first quarterback going into this season. He would be my top quarterback. Going to Miami University, knowing that he has Malachi Toney, knowing the recruiting classes that Mario Cristobal is getting, understanding that, not only are we losing Markel Bell and Francis Mauigoa, but like the guys that we have brought in behind them through the transfer portal, and guys that we have been signing in our past 2 or 3 recruiting classes. Again, a lot of turnover on this team. Ruben Bain Jr. is leaving, Akeem Mazador is leaving, but then, Lightfoot is coming along. Miami University is going to be there, man. I'd really, really be surprised if Miami University isn't there. Mensah is a quarterback that I'm really, really high on going into this next year's draft class. And again, going back and watching him at Duke, Chandler Rivers, again, just continues to solidify me as a guy that I just do not see making it outside of the top 50. I mean, for me, he is a really, really good football player. That's why I wanted to bring him up. Deshaun Stribling, the wide receiver from Ole Miss. I mean, this is me also hearing things around, from guys that I very, very much respect, and guys that I definitely cross-reference a lot of the things that I see on my notes and scouting and things like that. I love to hear different sides. Guys from PFF, Trevor Sikkema, I love listening to him. Do we always agree on every prospect? No, but I love hearing what he has to say, and I very, very much respect what he has to say because he has finds. Or he mentions guys that I'm like, damn, okay, I'm on it with this guy. And then I listen to Daniel Jeremiah. I listen to, like I said, Kyle Krabs, all these guys, man, like Bucky Brooks and, Charles Davis and guys like that, guys that I, have done it in the league, or guys that, report on these teams, year round. They have their own podcasts, and trust me, I listen to their podcasts, man. Like, do I base anything that I'm scouting off of their podcast? No, but like when I hear these guys bring up guys that I need to pay attention to, or I'm already on these guys, or maybe I have this guy graded and I'm like, man, that's kind of high. I'm not even hearing no love from him, and then I hear them bring it up. It kind of just solidifies it for me, and it's something that I really, really enjoy. This is kind of an off-brand episode. It's not really getting into anything from the NFL draft outside of like a couple guys, but these are just 2 guys that I think are going to go a lot higher than maybe we're hearing consensusly. Maybe you're watching NFL Network, you're not hearing these guys' names. Like I think these guys are going to get drafted in the top 50. I think they're very, very close to that. I don't see these guys making it past pick 75. There's really just no way for me. Not in this draft class. I think these guys are more top end than they are that end. They talk about there being only 15, teams only having 12 to 15 guys graded at first rounders. While I am there, I think that's being a little overblown, because while I do have a ton of second and third round grades that are going to go into the fourth and, maybe even fifth round, depending on team needs, medicals and things like that. And, just a lot of factors that go into the draft. While I think I have 13. I think I have 13 true first round grades. A lot of the grades that are coming right behind that are just off first round. So, I mean, you could say, oh, we got 12 first round grades. Maybe I got 3 blues. I have a lot of reds, but, a lot of them reds are factoring in as second rounders. Like, at the end of the day, like, 7th round picks end up being blue chip players, and it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen in the league. It is when teams draft properly. It is when teams understand the value of the player. They understand the range of the player. They get a little lucky because somebody didn't reach for them, maybe in a different scheme, and maybe they wouldn't have panned out on that team. Like, a lot of things go into it hitting for a player. Like, there's a big difference between a blue chip prospect and a blue chip player. A blue chip prospect means that I can put you in any scheme and you're going to be a quality, serviceable player in the NFL. Does that mean you're going to be a blue chip player in the NFL? No, it doesn't. Because, and I've said this with Arvell Reese, I think this is the easiest way to really explain it. I think Arvell Reese with Dan Quinn is a blue chip player in 2 or 3 years in the NFL. Right now, I don't have him as a blue chip prospect because I think it is very dependent on him going to that type of scheme, going to that type of coach, going to a system that's really going to exemplify his skill set, where we've seen that skill set work before. Again, that's the difference between a blue chip prospect and a blue chip player. And realistically, like, I don't have Arvell Reese as a blue chip prospect because I think it is very, very scheme dependent where he goes and the fit and the projection. And then really it's a lot on the player. What room do you put him in? Do you put him in the linebacker room? Do you put him in the edge room? What are we going to focus on? And then, like, okay, we're 2 years into this, and he is a linebacker, and we've developed him as an edge, and it's not working as an edge. And like, and now we got to restart developing him 2 or 3 years down the line, and you're going to spend a top 5 pick on this guy. That is why I have him as a red chip player, as a prospect. So again, red chip prospect is still very high. I still have a very high grade on him. It's not a knock. It's just saying that he is not scheme diverse. Sonny Styles, I see as a guy who could go play multiple schemes, scheme diverse. Caleb Downs can play multiple schemes. He is a blue for me. Ultimately, like, there is a lot of deficiencies on the measurables and things like that go into him. He is a lower blue for me, but the tape isn't low. You know, like on tape, I mean, graded as high as you want. He's an elite level, you know, the best one to come out since the Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton. You know, it's at the end of the day, what we're talking about is what are we seeing in tape? How well did they translate to multiple systems and things like that? That's why, again, my team board and any team board, any NFL team that's doing their scouting, their board is going to look completely different from the consensus board. There are some teams that draft off of the consensus board. Sometimes they get lucky and sometimes they bust. But you pick enough players off of that consensus board, then realistically, more than likely, and if the Philadelphia Eagles and Howie Roseman, everybody thinks Howie Roseman is a genius. Well, when you have 13, 14 picks a year and you're consistently accruing more picks the next year, it's not that it's not that your hit rate is any higher or your hit rate is any lower. You're actually missing more than most teams. You're just picking more than most teams. And if you're consistently picking off that consensus board, eventually you're just going to continue to get lucky. And that's with most teams. The Cleveland Browns, for all them errors, you know, it never worked out for the quarterback, but them accruing all them picks, they hit the Myles Garretts. They hit, you know, the corner, Denzel Ward. They hit these guys, and it's trust me, man, it's having a lot of darts to throw at the wall. And when you're drafting with these consensus boards, maybe some of them guys don't fit your scheme, but they're super talented. And realistically, if they're really, really high on the consensus board, more than likely you're giving them a really, really high grade, because more than likely, even if they don't go to a team that's fitting their individual skill set, they're still going to produce really well at a higher level than most guys that are, you know, really, really scheme dependent and things like that. And that's where the grading process comes in. And that's why I say a consensus board is very, very different from a team board. The players that I would have for the Washington Commanders at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are completely different from how I grade my big board, which is a consensus board. You know, like what I'm saying is a consensus board. Like realistically, like if I had to put these players 1 through 257, whatever the last pick in the draft is, whatever it is, as I'm going through this, I have to think about, okay, if I put him on 25 rosters, he will still be better than probably this player on 25 other rosters, or 25 of the same rosters. And it's pick your preference. It really is, especially when you get to these wide receivers, these cornerbacks. It's like the mental makeup, the size, you know, the height, weight. Like how much does Chris Brazzell, being 6'5", 212 pounds, you know, on tape looking like he runs a 4.4, you know, on drill he ran a 4, whatever, like, or whatever he runs, like he run the 4.3. There are a lot of things about that. Like, does he play at a 4.3? I don't think he plays at a 4.3, but I think he does play at a 4.4, 4.5. You know, straight line speed is very deceptive, especially when you're a long strider and it's long build-up speed, like 10-yard split. And, you know, Tyreek Hill's 10-yard split and, you know, Chris Brazzell's 10-yard split are going to be two different things, because one guy's coming out the gate fast and he's continuing to move fast. Very, very explosive in each of his steps, to where, like, some guys gradually get it. Deshaun Jackson's 4.35 40 is a lot different than Calvin Johnson's 4.35 40 if you run them together. One's going to get out there and one's going to run him down. Like, it's just what it is. Pick your preference. How are you trying to use them? What is your variation of attack for this player? And what is your plan for this prospect? That is what goes into scouting, man. It's what makes it hard. It's why we are all wrong. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, man, everybody wants to be right, man. I like the Twitter wars when you say something about a prospect that somebody is either a fan of their team. Like, you can talk all the shit in the world about Ruben Bain Jr., Francis Mauigoa, like Keontae Scott, like, you know, Monza next year, you know, Fletcher. Like just because I'm a Miami fan, like when I'm scouting a player, like you saying something about him has no impact on my life, dude. Like, you being right, like on the Twitter sphere, it makes no difference to me. Like, I've seriously pissed off an Arizona State fan yesterday for saying what I see on tape from Jordan Tyson yesterday, and it was funny. It's funny, like, people get. I mean, you'd think these guys are like their right hand. Like, you think that, like, okay, if you were talking shit about, like, talking a fair evaluation of a prospect, like, if you say there's injury concerns, you see this on tape and blah, 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 and you run into somebody in the Twitter sphere who is a fan of that player because that player plays for their team, man, you would think that that dude is like their security detail. I mean, they will talk shit. They will just all the things, man. Like, the Twitter sphere is a very interesting place to discuss college football because, and I mean, look, I admit it, man. By fans, for fans. Like, I'm a fan of football. I scout a lot of football. I take notes. I do this. This is a job. Like, at the end of the day, I am wrong. Like, I am wrong. I will be wrong a million times, and I will be right. And while I pat myself on the back for being right, like, of course I'm going to tell you, like, this is what I saw from this player, and I believed it. But, like, ultimately, at the end of the day, man, like, God bless that dude. Like, the dude stayed healthy, and, like, he went to the right fit. Like, I have no control over that. And realistically, there's a lot of factors that the player has no control over until the second contract. So, again, man, like, there's a lot of things that go into scouting. I think it's fun. I think it's really, really cool. The draft is 7 days away. This is a really, really awesome time for these players, man. Anything that I do knock about a player or just say from a player that doesn't really come from a place of positivity or things like that, or just me being honest as a scout for what I'm seeing, that does not mean they're not going to go into the league and be great. When I say Jordan Tyson can go into the NFL and get a JSN, Jamar Chase contract, like, I see that skill set. But what I also see is he missed the Jody Barron game last year in the 2 years ago in the college football playoffs. He was hurt. It sucks. Injuries happen. Like, I've gotten hurt playing football. I blew my collarbone out, multiple concussions. Like, I get it. Like, trust me, I get it. I'm not knocking it, but availability is a trait. It is something. And so. I didn't get to see him go against Jody Barron. Jody Barron last year was one of my favorite players in the whole draft. Like, ask anybody. Like, I love Jody Barron last year. Denver Broncos got a hell of a player. He's one of my favorite players to scout last year. A guy that went inside to outside, played really good at both. I think he can do both. And just fit everything that Denver Broncos do out there with the cornerback position. So again, not having that tape, I tell everybody, man, when I scout on Saturdays, man, like, I am looking for prime matchups, man. Whether it is the Francis Mauigoa against David Bailey. Like, if it is the premier edge versus the premier tackle, that is the game I'm watching. If it is Jordan Tyson going up against Mansour Delane, I'm watching it. Like, if it is Ohio State and all their horses going up against, maybe 2 or 3 guys that I'm really, really curious to see from Iowa or Indiana or, Michigan, like Michigan, I really want to see this cornerback go against Jeremiah Smith, or I really want to see their cornerback 2 and their nickel corner play against Carnell Tate, and maybe they have a really good linebacker, and I'm looking at this running back and I'm like, man, I want to see this shadow, man. I talked about that this past year with Pitt when they were playing they got burned up, man. Notre Dame. Man, Pitt got burned up against Notre Dame, and I was really, really looking forward to seeing those linebackers really excel, man. And Kyle Lewis was getting swallowed up in the run game, man. But, like, that's a testament to what Notre Dame does. It's not a knock on Kyle Lewis or anything, man. Like, you knew he was going to get blown up in the run game multiple times during the course of that game, but I wanted to see him make plays, and he did make plays. But ultimately, man, like, the game got out of hand. But those are the matchups that you're looking for, and those are where you find critical moments, man. That's what they eat. Like, you can never project, and trust me, there's multiple times that I start a game on Sunday and I flip it to some other game because, one, the game flow is better, the game quality is better. You're seeing prospects that you have grades on, or guys are jumping out to you that you weren't even looking for going into their matchup, man. It happens all the time. I mean, that's how I got on Kelly Jones from Mississippi State, and a couple linebackers and guys, Torian York and things like that. Or Torian York's Texas A&M, my bad. But, like, I'm just saying, like, this is part of the scouting game, and this is what makes it so much fun. And trust me, we are all wrong, and sometimes we get it right, and it's just pat yourself on the back when you get it right, and just take your licks and learn the lesson from getting it wrong. And every prospect has a lesson, whether it's mental makeup from the player or injuries and things like that, or again, schematical fit, for where they go. Again, just wanted to have a fun podcast, man. Something different, kind of break up the monotony of just talking player that's going into this draft and putting them in a position with the grade. Like I said, the grades have been final. Like I said, I kind of just want to give you a insight into what I do as far as how I go about scouting, how I've made it easier over the course of the years. Man, I've been doing this since I was in 7th grade, man. I'm 36 years old, dude. Like, this, I've learned the lessons. Like, like honestly, it all started with like Deshaun Jackson, like Marshawn Lynch, and Aaron Rodgers coming out of Cal. I really really loved all them guys, and as a Miami University fan, like Sean Taylor and like that era, man. I started back then because playing football and wanting to improve my skill set, and then playing flag football as I got older and things like that when football was no longer an option for me. Just developing my game because I care about it enough because I just love the game and just like to get out there and run around and play. But at the end of the day, man, like, and that's where scouting comes from, and it's just something that I've always loved doing, and it's something that I've done year after year, and over the course of just doing it, watching guys getting it wrong, getting it right, learning the lessons from where I got it wrong, and just really, oh man, I got into that because of a narrative that they were talking about. Oh, this guy didn't have a 60-70% completion percentage in college. How's he going to improve? Josh Allen bumped that narrative. I mean, dude, it happens year after year after year. There's always narratives, and somebody bumps them, and somebody lives up to them, man. So at the end of the day, man, scouting is just fun. Just enjoy watching these players. It's a blessing for these guys to even get to the point that they are. It's a fuck ton of work. I mean, like, trust me, anybody that's sitting on their couch and is like, oh man, you gotta catch that fucking ball over the middle. Hey, dude, I promise you, man, I promise you, I can put you up against a practice squad cornerback. You ain't catching shit on them. So at the end of the day, it's just the way of the world. But everybody can do everything on the couch, but very few people actually are getting out there on tape and doing it. So again, man, I appreciate all the scouting that I do, and I love these players. So again, just a fun episode for me, man. Anybody that checked it out and stayed till the end, I don't know why you did, because this is really just nerd football shit. But at the end of the day, man, this is what I do. This is what I love. Thank you guys for tuning into the Blue Chip Podcast, man. We are 7 days away from the draft. 7 days. So again, man, there's a lot of fun, a lot of good shit to be coming from. A lot of blessings, getting dreams, getting live for these players, man. It's just a special memory for them, and it's just a fun pod that I wanted to do. I really, really enjoyed this, man. So for anybody that tuned in, like, comment, subscribe, man. I really do enjoy all the love, man. I've been getting a little bit more interactive with some guys that have been watching this, and I really do appreciate it. So again, anybody that tuned in, have a blessed week and stay safe. And like I said, we're 7 days away, man. Next Thursday it's on. So thank you guys for tuning into the podcast. Peace.